welcome back to another episode of Politics as Usual. Kinda, maybe, never is. No such thing as usual in politics. But yo, I'm really excited about this episode, man. This is one that I've wanted to do for some time now. As always, we got DeMarco Davidson, Chris Carter in the house. Good to see you, fellas. What's shaking?
And man, it's great to be here, man, and great to be under a Biden presidency. And this feels different.
I ain't.
I just said it feels different. I didn't say it was all the way better. I just said it feels different.
Yeah, so my man get like 2 weeks before we start like this swinging.
Look.
Hey, they hating already. Man. Hey, people still rioting in Portland. They was like, screw Trump. They were like, Biden won, screw Biden. Like, we still burning stuff down. I'm like, all right, Portland.
They rioted intentionally in Portland just to let them know it ain't sweet. But we'll get to that real quick. But also we definitely want to welcome our guest in today. I'm gonna try this real quick. I'm gonna try to see how this goes. We have Wiley Price IV, who represents the state's 84th House District here, joining us on the program. All right, that was enough. Chip, what's going on?
Exactly. Like, I'm like, are we gonna have to like make this like a shot game or something? Like,
yeah, we got to. All right, so let me give him the backstory. Let me give him the backstory real quick. I can't. Chris and DeMarco are gonna call you by your government name, but I obviously can't. We've known each other since at least we were 2 and 3 years old. You know what I'm saying? So like, I can't do it. It's like calling your parents by their first name. Your mind don't start that way. So, but hey, I'm glad that you was able to join us, brother. I know that is definitely a time that I wanted to hear from you, that I want for other people to hear from you, and we definitely wanted to get you on the program. So for that to happen here. So hey, thanks for joining us, man.
Right on, man. Happy to be here. I see my man Chris Carter down there like Brad Pitt in Ocean's 11, just eating every scene. Like every scene, he just.
I got dinner over my left shoulder right now, just looking at me, but I'm gonna be strong and get through it. So
right on.
So let's jump into things. Before we get into things that's going on with you, Chip, let's hey y'all, like we were just joking right there, but it is kind of a new day in politics, I guess, right now in the country. Things feel different. I don't know, is that just me, or do y'all kind of feel like the vibe is a little bit different?
I mean, CNN is slower. You know what I'm saying? So it's Fox News. My phone's not dinging every 12 hours. So, yeah, I mean, the 24-hour news cycle is taking a plunge, which means that, we can all get our blood pressure back under control and worry about our own lives a little bit instead of worrying about what kind of national crisis we are on the edge of. Yeah. It's nice.
Right. It definitely got a little vacation vibe to it. DeMarco, how you feeling over the last?
Yeah, man. Like I was saying, man,
I guess.
Right, I shared with somebody, man. I actually can say the word president without gagging, like without having a little throw up in my mouth now, man. So again, like we still gonna hold Biden and his whole cabinet accountable as much as possible. But I don't even mind saying his name for the moment, and just to see him really work. I'm glad that we are getting the deans and the updates on executive orders of undoing other stuff that Trump did. Right. So, right. That's what's interesting. But again, just to see how the media had played a huge part. And that's one thing I always say, like Trump was good for media. Like Saturday Night Live had their best year ever because of the Trump skits. And I think people finally got tired of laughing at death.
Yeah, that's a good
real,
thing
like that.
To be behind.
Got really somber.
Chris, how about you, man? What are we, 5 days into the new administration? How are you feeling about things since we last got together?
You know what? I'm feeling good. It's glad to bring respect back to that seat. I think that with Trump, we definitely didn't get a presidential president. And it's just I'm happy to bring some dignity and somebody with good morals back to the seat. So it's going to be interesting to see how his first 100 days are. Hopefully he can follow through with everything that he said that he was going to push through with. And we'll see. I got high hopes, but I mean, we'll see.
it's a hell of a shopping list he's got ahead of him that he's got to pick up over these first 100 days and beyond to get things rolling. So we definitely will see what that does and see how it trickles down to us on the local level. And you know, I think that it would be a major waste to skip over the local level. We have a state rep, we have a past state rep here. We got an organizer and rabble rouser and DeMarco. We got a lot of different people that have a lot of things to do with that. What do you think, Chip? I'll come back around to you. What do you think about, you know, what the trickle down effect looks like when things start to get to the state level of any difference here in the new administration?
What do you mean by trickle down effect? Like trickle down economics type of deal?
No. Let me clarify that. I mean, like
that's not a thing.
You're always looking at, you know, one thing I blame us at in presidential cycles is we look at this highest level of federal things and stop looking at what's going on in our neighborhoods. And that's really where we need to be focused at. But it also would be untrue to say that those things that happen at that highest level don't have an impact on what comes down. And I think that being in the middle of a pandemic and the economic things that are happening because of that, there's definitely got to be some impact on the decisions he makes that come down to the local level. Or am I out in left field?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. There is a political climate that occurs across the nation, and we all kind of naturally start gravitating to the same type of legislation. So like there is a political climate that is created. I was going to say that as Democrats, we always kind of receive the country in a crisis control mode. I mean, I would argue our last 2 or 3 Democratic presidents did that. I mean, you can go back to the Obama administration coming out of, you know, the recession, you know, the depression really, and bringing the economy back. Clinton was dealing with Iran-Contra and all that craziness out of the, you know, late 80s, you know, and the crack epidemic and the crazy violence that was happening across the nation because of Reaganomics, and the trickle down effect of that. So I think that we've always had to come in and like calm the waters as a Democrat, I guess, for lack of a better term. So I think that's not going to shake us. We always receive the country at its worst. In regards to the trickle down of the Fed level, really don't know what they're going to champion yet. I really don't know if they're going to come in and say, okay, cool. Biden wants to make up for his whole super predator time in the 3 strikes deal, and he's in here with a ex-prosecutor. So now we're doing criminal justice reform. Mm-hmm. You know, that's a lane that they could take, and I could really see that. But they could also go left and go super hard into like, you know, the Paris Climate Agreement and, you know, being very environmental. They could take that lane and completely go away from what I would say is special interest and go into something that is least affected in my neighborhood. I would say that, like something like environmental, like the Paris Agreement. I mean, that would not move the needle in my district at all. But it, you know, that doesn't mean that it's not important. I should also say that. So we don't know. I don't know. I don't know what direction they're going to go into, which is going to start these conversations nationally, which then creates, you know, the conversation here locally, and we can start trying to make some steps in the right direction, whatever the right direction may be. So,
DeMarco,
yeah, and I mean, I was actually surprised to see Biden do an executive order against the Keystone Pipeline. Mm-hmm. You know, so seeing things of that nature, right? That's pretty major. Like that's
massive. That's massive, bro. That's
massive.
That always warms my heart. That Keystone business has always been a bad deal from the jump.
Always from jump, right? So I was surprised to see something like, but he ran on that, you know. So it was a good surprise, right? Like he told people, yeah, I'm done with the fossil fuels, right? So to move our country that direction, and but I'm also agreeing with Representative Price that that trickle down effect of policy is going to be challenging. No, we're here in Missouri. Cape Girardeau benefits a lot from the oil industry. From at one point in time, it did, right? I don't know if they still do the same way. But what does it mean for our local economy? What does it mean for our gas stations and all that stuff? That's the part that I think we got to figure out. We'll see, and it's up to I think also our local elected officials to figure out how do we actually take part in a Biden economy? Like, how do we actually benefit? How do we actually position ourselves even after Biden leaves? And that's, to me, those are the challenges that I look forward to our local elected officials to position us in order to win in the next 10, 20 years.
Chris, how about you? What you looking at?
Well, no, I had a question for the representative, real quick. I mean, while we were talking about just, you know, the different climates in DC and what we want to see happening, I wanted to real quick just get his take on what is the political climate like in Jeff City right now, just between both parties. Like, do you see Governor Parson and the Republicans working with you guys to get key stuff done that you know we care about, or do you see it continue to kind of be still divided? And you know,
right now it's tough to tell. We have a new Speaker of the House, and as it stands, he seems to be twisting arms kind of early in the game.
Really?
On getting some of his stuff situated, and he is pretty strong about how he's going about it. Kind of in that Trump vein a little bit, and how he's going about it. Kind of, you know, just very strong, I'll say. So it's hard to tell right now. I will say, as a super minority, it's a 162-man assembly. It's the fourth largest assembly in the country. There's only 44 Democrats. So it's tough to get anything done. And anytime they come to, I mean, they just don't have to come to the table to talk to us about most things. They usually have the votes.
Right.
So I would guess that school choice is going to be the big deal this year. And that is going to create a divide within both parties, would be my guess. Getting something done with the Democrats is not a term that I'm used to hearing. It's a Republican-ran House, so it's about the relationships that you can make across the aisle, and if you have an idea that is somewhere in the middle that makes sense for everybody, and they can take and put their sauce on it too. Right now, as a super minority, I think your best bet is to get it out of your head that you're going to get something passed, or they're going to come to you and say, hey, we need you on this, or hey, can you bring us some votes on this? And it's probably better to have the idea of, hey, if you're trying to get something done, you need to be able to position it in a way where it's not only palatable for Republicans, but also attractive for someone to want to carry it. And at that point, you don't have your name on it, but
right. And that's what I
care about it enough to get it done.
Right. And that's what I was going to ask. Like, is it a point where, like, you have, let's say you have something that's important to you, a piece of legislation that you love, is that something that you would give to a Republican to get done?
Yeah, absolutely. But see, I'm a different breed though. Like, yeah. and like it don't. I come from something different as far as business and negotiation.
Right.
And so I understand that you're either going to, that's way I can put this. In current position as a super minority, you're either going to make moves, which means everything that you're doing is off the grid, or you're going to make statements. Those are your options. You can stand on the floor and grandstand and make these beautiful speeches, and everybody's like, wow, that was so elegant. You didn't move nobody. You didn't change no votes. You didn't do none of that. So that's great. You can put that up on your Facebook and say, you know, I said this, but those of us who are in it know that is the epitome of political theater. And you didn't, like you said, you didn't change hearts and minds. So, I mean, that was a great speech that you wrote out and you performed on the floor.
Right.
But again, you either get to make statements or you get to make moves. And if you don't make moves, you're probably not gonna have your name on it. But like, it's important. Case in point, the mail-in balloting from last year. That's my language. But like, I didn't have my name on it. Well, I didn't have my name on it for two reasons. I wasn't going to be able to have my name on it. I'm an incoming freshman and all the things. House, Republican ran House, and they threw a notary on it, which to me completely changed the trajectory of what I was trying to do. And so I was just like, all right, cool. Well, I guess I'm glad we got mail-in balloting. Right. I guess, I mean, you know what I mean? That was like, all right, cool. The only way I can look at this is a baby step into some form of early voting in the future. You know what I mean? We're one of 12 states that don't offer any form of early voting.
Let me ask you this.
Go ahead, Chris.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry. I don't want to take it.
Oh, so I just want to Representative Price, and I appreciate you sharing that, like how Democrats are not just a minority when it comes to the House and what it takes to actually get things accomplished. Is that what you feel helped you, that understanding helped you become freshman of the year in 2019?
I mean, without doubt. I mean, I went in there with the understanding of, like, if you want to make waves, you do that with the relationships that you make on the other side. And you cannot be, right now we're in a place with, especially with the current transition of the top shelf of the presidency, where everybody is super far right and super far left. And so the middle is super thin, but the middle is where you get shit done. The middle is where everybody comes to actually, like, sign the bill. The middle is where nobody likes to be right now, because the middle is actually where is stuff in this bill that I don't like and there's stuff in this bill that you don't like, but none of this stuff is self-serving. It actually helps the people that we're here to help. And so we're going to go ahead and pass this out. That's a good bill.
And that's a good bill. Yeah, no, hey, that's, I mean, stuff just happened that way though. That's how it is. Let me ask you, do you guys still get punished for voting certain ways from Dems? You know, and punish may be harsh.
Yeah.
You know.
It's looked upon poorly. I wouldn't say punishment because we're not in the majority. So, like, what is your punishment, right? You know what I mean? Like, what can they really take from you or not give you? You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
So, but, like, yeah, I mean, it has come up in caucus that, like, hey, if we can, I mean, you know what? I use myself as an example. Last year, there was a bill that came up, and it was in criminal justice reform. It was about if you were over 65 and you got 25 to life, but you made it to 65, you were up for parole. I didn't like that bill because I was like, well, what if you knock off three or four people at 63? And then you got 2 years and now you're up for parole. Like I don't like this bill, you know what I mean? For very basic reason. But then I got a little bit more into it and I kind of peeled back the onion and I was like, look, in my neighborhood, people know when people are getting out of jail. I don't know how they know that, but somehow they know that. So if something happens, let's say 10 years ago, let's take away the 63 example. Say you do something at 55, but this guy's got a kid that's 10, and you do 10 years and now you're back on the street. Now this kid's 20 and he's been out here emotionally distraught for the last 10 years, but he's also like halfway in the streets. Like, you're potentially creating more crime in my neighborhood. So when the vote came around, I passed. When he came back to me, it was a 4-4 vote, and I thumbed it down. So essentially, I killed a Democratic bill. I felt like it was a bad bill. So I'm not in a place where I'm like, oh, this is a Democratic bill. I should at least let this get to the floor so we can talk about how bad it is.
No. So this was a bill. This was one of y'all like caucus, like legislative agenda.
It was one of those criminal justice deals, and we was gonna put it in an ominous bill, and it was gonna be a part of the whole deal. And I was just like, this is just not a good bill, in my opinion. And I voted it down. And so I killed a Democratic bill before it could even get out to the floor. And I definitely heard about it in caucus. And it was just like, look, we already having a hard time passing anything. If you could, let's not kill Democratic bills. And I was just like, even if they're bad bills, you know what I mean? But like, again, I don't come from that place where I'm like, oh, this is a Democratic bill, so let me ignore all of these holes in this bill, or like, let me try to help it so then it's a decent bill, but it's still got horrible overtones. Like, it's a bad bill, man. Scrap it.
You know what used to get me? I'm sorry, Marco. Go ahead.
Oh, so I mean, I just want to do a quick follow up as well, because I try to explain to people how, like, the Black population is small in Missouri. The Democrat power is not tiny, but it's really challenging, right? But you mentioned, and I actually want to hear from both of you, especially from a state rep standpoint, how there are so many people that's like on the left, so many people that's on the right, and I don't like those terms either. But these are terms at the moment. But then trying to figure out how to get to the middle.
I just want to jump in there real quick, and I want to make a very, very clear point. It's my political opinion that there are, in this political climate, there are only liberals and there are only conservatives, and there are moderates. I find that the only people that really get caught up in the language of Democrat or Republican are Black folks. And I think that we should get away from that. And I think that we should, because that has got us caught up in feeling like we have to be too true blue to one side or the other. And it creates a divide within our own situation. So I would like to try to create the idea amongst people that are our age and our mid-30s that like, look, there are liberals, conservatives, and moderates, because Republicans and Democrats, that's a game. That's a game. And the only person that wins with that game are, I'm probably gonna get in trouble for saying this, but progressives, which is also the most dangerous word in politics, because what's progressive to you is not progressive to me.
Right. Got you. And we actually talked about that last time, how some people are like, again, the city of St. Louis is full of Democrats, but some of them are just Democrats in name only. If they was someplace else, they would definitely not be a Democrat, right? I'm talking about how people are like rhinos, like they call them Republicans in name only. Sure. Right. So I feel you on that. But my question was, how have you seen, not trying to necessarily move the left, right, not trying to move the conservatives or liberals, right? But what would it take to actually move what it means to be moderate, I guess, and move the middle to be where is more focused on redeveloping and providing infrastructure for our communities. And I'd like to ask that, for, again, as state reps, how, and especially, and doesn't make a difference who is president as well. Like, because Chris, you came in with Obama when they was running things for those 2 years.
Yeah, on the federal level. Bad. It was, because everybody was trying to show that they were anti-Obama. Even, you had, we had to deal with the bills where, they wanted to see his right, but yeah, and
get all that stuff.
They want to see everything.
But see, that little bullshit right there, that little type shit, that was the beginnings of January 6th.
Yeah,
that right there.
Yes,
that right there.
Yes.
That, and then the Tea Party and them trying to act like that wasn't a racist situation. Oh, it's about this. It's about like, no, this shit racist, and white people need to call this what it is, so we can stop hiding it, and then we don't have a bunch of people with tiki torches in the next 6 years in, up in the Northeast. And then another 3 or 4 years after that, we have the insurrection. And it's
tiki torches, there's a straight line between tiki torches and the insurrection. Anybody that doesn't see that is denying what happened. And that's why the point of what happened with the insurrection is why people finally looked at that, and we'll see, actions are way stronger than words. That line got to get broke. Yep. That line has to get broken, because now what was deemed as untouchable or what was played down is now seen as a big deal. And that's in everybody's district and in everybody's county and in everybody's city, because as you see them reaching out and pulling these people out, that's why the national news was focused on Missouri this week. And somebody from Missouri stole a laptop or whatever it was. And now it's in our backyard too, that justice has to get handled.
Well, it was in our backyard.
And our front yard with Josh Hawley.
There's a gentleman in the legislature right now that skipped our own swearing in to be there in DC. Yep. Right. The guy, bro, like it's crazy, bro. They do all kind of weirdness and then come into the legislature and start talking about principles and morals. Like, I was like, what?
Well, majority principle, and that's when I think the point of what you made about the super minority, people need to understand that. That's when people are talking in the room to each other and around other people, because you don't have to address that person. Right. Imagine if 3 of us in this chat just started talking to each other, and then the 4th person is just sitting there. because we're all aligned on one thing, and that person is a part of it and has been invited, but they're not really. They're invited because we got to invite somebody.
Well, you know what? Honestly, right now we are a super minority. We don't even have to be invited. They have a quorum without us.
Yeah,
they just start business. We don't have to be in the chamber. They can just gavel in. So I mean, it's a different, man. It's a different way to live life legislatively when you are just kind of being pushed and prodded where they need you to be. And again, the only time you really get to score points is when you get to call out the hypocrisy on the floor, or you get to speak to something and offer an amendment that seems to make sense and makes so much sense that the only reason it's blatant that the only reason we're not going with this is because this is a Democratic idea. And they like to stand out there on the floor and say, everybody has good ideas. They're a Democratic idea. And it's like, bro, we haven't passed one of those in 4 sessions. What do you mean?
That's crazy.
I kind of lost my friend.
How important is it for the Black Caucus right now to step up and, talk about everything that's happening in Jeff City, and not just in Jeff City, but just nationally, just in terms of, how Blacks are treated and how everything has affected us in our state?
I think it's very important for 2 reasons. Obviously, for the most obvious reason is that there are a lot of things going on that directly affect Black folks, not only in the state, but in this country. Secondly, because it's 44 Democrats, I think there are 20 Black Democrats within the House right now. So we are a large portion of the Democratic Party right now. And so for that reason, I think we have a different responsibility now in kind of educating our progressives, our incoming progressives, on how we appreciate your energy, but like we also can speak for ourselves. And it's not necessary for you to run to the front of the line all the time to speak to the injustice of. We have our own voice, and we can speak for ourselves in this way. But it's also important for us for the Black Caucus to be there, because with us being half of the caucus, I think it's an opportunity for us to really, for real, put some things on the agenda that truly move the needle in our neighborhood.
Exactly.
Because, as I've always said, fixing things in the Black community fixes things in everybody's community.
Right.
So with that being said, talking about where we're at with the caucus and where things are at like that, I want to turn to some of the things that have happened recently in your career in Jeff City. It's I think that if people aren't aware of it, I'm pretty sure they know, there's been some accusations against you at the Capitol that have led to a vote this past week for you to be expelled from the caucus.
Mm-hmm.
What I wanted to do with this forum we had here today was offer you an opportunity to speak to the situation at hand, and also, pull the curtain back. There's a lot of things that are being said in the mainstream media and things that are being put out there. But, one thing that I missed from a lot of those things is your voice in the quotes that are out there and the pieces that are out there. So we wanted to offer you the opportunity to do just that, lend your voice to the situation that's at hand, and give us an opportunity to hear from you about that.
Okay, cool. Awesome. Sure. This might be lengthy because there's a lot to discuss there. So basically, the initial complaint was that I was in a sexual relationship with the intern. That complaint was made by a third party, and no real evidence at all was brought forth with that accusation. It was just an accusation. Then the accusation became that I had then threatened the person who filed the ethics report. Man, I swear my phone hasn't rang all day. All day. I've been hanging out all day. Hasn't rang all day. I'm not gonna answer that one. And then the claim became that I threatened the person that filed the ethics report. Just in those accusations, there's a lot to uncover there. There are a lot of safeguards in the process of filing an ethics report, as you would think there would be. It's like any other claim that you would file at your job with HR. You know, they're not going to tell you even, in my job, they don't tell you what it's about. They just let you know that you have one, and then they come in and start asking you questions. So the initial report was that I had an inappropriate relationship or sexual relationship with an intern. I guess here I'll stop and say they came to me with some very serious accusations and put the burden on me to prove that I didn't do it, which is the start of the problems. So at that point, fast forward, I had a woman come into my office one day. Obviously, I knew she was coming to talk to me about this ethics report. She starts asking me some very personal questions about my personal life, which cued me to then say, okay, what is the ethics report about? Like, what are you here for? And she just flat out said, well, I have a report that you're having sex with it, that you had sex with the intern on this date. And I was like, that sounds weird by itself. I had sex with the intern on this date, but whatever. Okay. It's just me and you in this room. There's nobody recording. You're taking notes of our conversation. And I've been depositioned before. This does not feel like a deposition. This feels different. But I would like some representation in the room. So I immediately asked for representation at that point. And I kind of shut it down, to be honest. But she said, even in that moment, she was just like, so you do realize that this makes it look like you have something to hide. I mean, you're not interested in showing me your phone records. And I'm like, yeah, no, I'm not showing you anything. Like, I'm not, she always, in that conversation, she was like, well, you need to let me see your phone so I can see, you know, whatever the conversations have been between. And I was just like, yeah, again, I'm extremely uncomfortable with this line of questioning. I'm extremely uncomfortable with the claims. So I said no to all things with this lady. I shut it down. Several weeks later, I get a full report of like our whole conversation. And I'm reading questions that were never asked to me, answers obviously that I didn't give. And I was like, yep, this is why I shut it down. This is why I did not. So when people hear like the report came out, I think that people think that the report was done by like detectives and real investigators and like these kinds of people. And it wasn't. It was like some third party lady that came in from Kansas City that was like a mediator that took notes of our conversation and was offended that basically I shut down our conversation.
Who is the, can I ask you real quick, who is the person that was over the oversight at that point that would have commissioned this person to come in?
It would have been the chair of the ethics commission, or the ethics committee, which would be a gentleman named Jay Eggleston. And we can get into that at some point. And while I'm going through this, you guys feel free to jump in and ask questions wherever you feel.
Hold up. So where was she from?
She was from Kansas City. She just a third party investigator that they bring in, which is crazy to me. In my opinion, if you're going to have a situation like this, you need to have somebody in the building who is in the building at all times, who also understands all the players involved.
Right.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So like if you have somebody who's a gossiper or somebody who's a rumor starter or somebody who just always has to be, you know, the center of that kind of attention, you kind of already have that knowledge going in that this could be a questionable source.
Well, have they made it clear about the process that it goes into determining a person that would even be in that seat? Like, if they made it clear that this person was brought in due to a established protocol or anything, or did they just kind of show up at the doorstep?
No, I received a phone call and scheduled this appointment with this lady. She was like, I'm coming in and ask you some questions about this ethics report. I thought the ethics report was about something completely different, completely off topic of that.
You thought it was financial, right?
Man, I was like, oh, they thinking I'm doing something weird with my MEC report. I'm like, oh, that's fine. Like, I got all the receipts, whatever. They come in, they start asking me like some very awkward personal questions that again, it was enough to make me ask, okay, what are the actual claims of the ethics report? And so when she told me, I was just like, yeah, I know what time it is with these claims. Nope, we're not doing this. And so ultimately, what they tried to do was take what I said in the deposition, or what was written in this report, which is what I said in the deposition, and compare it to what I said in front of the ethics committee, which were people that I knew, people that like I knew what the topic was, and like I went in there and was just like, oh, y'all want to know? Here's what's going on. But I had this lady come into my office and was like, so what's your relationship like with your LA? And I was like, it's great. Like, how can I help you? Like, you know what I'm saying? So she asked me these kind of questions, and I'm like, you know, I'm just answering them professionally, not honestly, if that makes sense. Because
yeah, no, I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying.
I'm not really understanding where she's going with this line of questioning yet. And when I finally caught wind to it, I was just like, yeah, no. Like, because that came up. She was just like, well, you said you and your LA got along great. And I was just like, well, yeah, that was before I realized what the actual line of questioning was and how it related to what the ethics report was.
You were speaking to the nature of a professional relationship, and they were trying to take it underneath the nature of a completely different extent.
Yes, in regards to the intern, absolutely. Yeah. Which they later found out when they subpoenaed my phone records that everything that I was saying that I was doing was above board. And so, I mean, trust me, had they had some wild text message or some crazy like that have been all through the papers, they'd have led with that.
Yes,
you know what I mean? The woman in question, the intern, who was really, look, if I'm honest, she is actually the victim in all of this. I mean, I'm obviously having a rough time, but that girl, a very cool portion of her life, which should have been a cool experience, was ruined, and she was used as a pawn because someone was mad at me. And like, that's a problem. But that's neither here nor there for the time being. But it's also important to note that this woman was very clear that like we never had any kind of sexual relationship.
Hold on. She told them that. So why is it what are we doing? Why?
So and that was actually mentioned in the paper today too. That's like she actually shared that didn't happen. So
however, it was shared in the paper, not as a lead, not in the same intensity that it was initially put forward.
No, the headlines initially said lawmaker caught sex with intern censured is what the headline said, which was every portion of that was inaccurate.
Hold on, Rep, but if okay, so like legally, if let
me stop you. This is a kangaroo court, my man.
Oh yeah, I forgot. Yeah.
This ain't legal. Like, you know what I mean? No part of this would have ever made a courtroom because this is all hearsay.
But if
they weren't able to produce any proof for any portion of their allegations.
Right. But if the victim is saying nothing ever happened, that's it. It's nothing.
Yeah, unless it's a political situation. Unless it's a political situation.
So let me ask you this, Representative Price. I mean, because I'm seeing also the immediate quick response from, I'll just say it, from the Democrats, right?
I don't know if that's an immediate quick response. This hit the news December 15th. And I can speak to that as well. I think that is a huge red flag to the general public that the Democrats have been very quiet on this because, I mean, I'll just say it. The people that work in the Capitol, the people that are in Jeff City know that something is awry with this situation. Also, people have gotten to know me for the last 2 years. So if you know me for the last 2 years and then you read this scathing report about somebody threatening people and not really having any idea where the line is professionally, that's not how I've conducted myself at all in that building. So it goes against what people know of me. But in regards to the actual claims, the problem with the whole process is I wasn't given due process. My story was scrutinized in a way that was just super crazy, and hers wasn't scrutinized at all. There were gaping holes in her allegations that should have been addressed, and they just took her story at face value. And so that's the problem that a lot of the people in the Black Caucus are having, is that they see a narrative of, look, a white woman came with claims of sexual improprieties of a Black man. We've seen this story happen 1,000 times in America. No proof was brought, and y'all just went over there because she said he whistled at somebody, and y'all digitally lynched him. And like, honestly, I didn't think that they could take it this far because I knew that they couldn't make this true. And I'm like, well, until you come with something solid that like puts me in these places of threatening this woman and hooking up with this other woman that night, like, you guys can't make this true.
So let me ask you this, Rep. Who idea was it to censure you from the caucus?
So
that leadership.
So this is what happens when you have a lack of institutional knowledge. and a lack of and this is the problem with term limits. A lot of the people on the ethics committee that were on the Dem side didn't know that they didn't have to sign the recommendation. They didn't realize that that was an option. So when the Republicans came in, think about this, without any proof, like the gentleman told me who was termed out at this time. He said, the problem was you were going through this whole process thinking that they needed proof and evidence, and all they needed was votes. And however they got those votes, that's how they got them. You don't know what they was promised. You don't know what they was told. You don't know what, you know what I mean? They just needed votes. So, but in regards to, what was your question? Oh, yeah, the young lady said that it never happened. I said that it never happened. Then they demanded my phone records. I refused. They subpoenaed my phone records. Come to find out, the young lady in question was texting her fiance until 3 that morning. And all the action on my phone died at like 1 or 1:15. Like I had no more texts or calls or ingoing or outgoing. But yeah, like, and like, this is all the information that they have. This is all the information that they know. And they still move forward on me as if I had an inappropriate relationship with this young woman and that I then threatened my LA. But my question is, how do you
reconcile all of that? That not you yourself, but I'm just putting it in the atmosphere. That's a lot of different things that are going in a lot of different directions that have no root to the tree, if you will.
Yeah, and also, like, my question also is, like, who actually benefits from this? You know, like, I don't understand, like, and maybe that's the thing.
Because if we're talking about Wiley Price and his alleged sexual relationship with this intern, and then he allegedly like threatened his LA for reporting that the relationship with the intern, we're not talking about Rick Rober, who is the guy who just got elected on the Republican side, whose 3 children came out against him as a pedophile.
Yeah.
We're not talking about the representative who was just up in DC for the insurrection. We're not talking about those things. We're talking about Wiley Price. And that's really real. It was told to me by someone on their side that if the gentleman had lost his primary, I probably would have been out of ethics by September. And therein lies the problem. The woman who says that, you know, I was threatening her and she's terrified to be in the building with me, Jeff City is super small, man. I'll be out somewhere having dinner. Guess who walks through the door?
You don't see it. Yeah, you gonna see it.
But she then sits down at the bar and like starts drinking and hanging out. And I'm just like, what? How do you get to claim you're scared for your life and like hang out like in places that like I'm having dinner? And then I'm the one that ends up leaving because like I don't feel comfortable and I don't want this woman trumping up some more charges on me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like it's been a crazy year in regards to this case. It's been a lot of things that have been left out of the media in regards to this case. Super frustrating. It was crazy was I wasn't even driving last year. And so like the question came up, well, how did you even get there? And I was like, well, that's a good question. How would I even get there? So like, I mean, even the day that she says that I came, the other portion of this is that her claim is that I walked into my office the next morning, called her into my office and was like, hey, I had sex with that intern last night. Okay, have a good one.
Why would you do that? Why? That's crazy.
Who does that? Who no, who does that? Like, okay, so I don't have no homeboys. I don't have anybody like, and I'm so excited about this situation that I have to come in and share it with you. Like a 40-year-old mother of 3. This is who I'm talking about this with. Like, that's what y'all believe? That for me, that was one of the things that I was hung up on the entire time. I was like, people believe that I walked into the building and shared this information with my female legislative assistant? That part by itself is troublesome. So, but whatever. And the day in question that she says that I did that, and Chris, you would appreciate this. The day in question that she says that I did this, it was a tech day.
Okay. Yeah.
You feel what I'm saying?
So let us know.
I wouldn't have even unlocked my door to my office.
What's a tech day?
A tech day, Chris knows what I'm talking about. A tech day is basically a day where if you're already in Jeff City and like the Thursday is a tech day, you wake up that Thursday morning with all your bags packed in the trunk. You have no reason to go to your office. You walk upstairs, you wave to the clerks like I was here. You get your per diem for the day, and you're on the road home.
Yeah.
Nobody is hanging out in the building. But like to double down on that, not only was it a tech day, Chris, the building was closed due to weather. So there would have been no employees in the offices. Like, you know, I mean, my LA wouldn't even been there. And it was the day after her birthday. Like, it's just a bunch of stuff. So all of these things that I felt like were basic questions that somebody on the ethics committee could have just looked up. Like, hey, okay, well, you said this happened on January 24th. Let's look up January 24th in the journal. What was going on that day? Oh, damn, it was a tech day. So just for clarity, ma'am, you saying he came in here and hung out with you in the office on a tech day? And why were you in the building? It was closed during weather.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like things like that. And then everybody knows how many safeguards are involved in the ethics, like reporting. You report it to the top shelf of the leadership and they walk you into HR and then HR takes care of you from there. There is no way to know who filed your ethics report until the actual report comes out months later. Like, so, I mean, I would have to know that an ethics report has been filed on me. I would then have to know what it's about to be able to figure out who filed it.
Yeah.
And she's saying that I threatened her before she even filed it.
Chip, let me ask you this, you know, about the response on the Democratic side of the aisle, with your colleagues in party. You know, it seemed like a lot of this thing in the timeline that's happened here has just been like they're, you know, ushering it down as well. Like it's kind of a me against the you against the world type of environment here. Right. I mean, what are your thoughts on that and some of the things that have happened? Them changing your office and you know, bringing up the different things that have happened.
They've created a narrative that like I am this monster. I am this guy that everybody in the building that works there, staffers, are afraid of. Because I'm walking around the building like just iron claw, I guess. And so what's funny about that is actually what also was not in the paper is that last year when this was reported, I moved away from the woman who reported it into the complex that I'm in now. They moved into my complex. Remember, they're terrified of me, remember? Okay, they moved into my complex, and then 5 days later, I'm censured, and then after the censure, they come and they say, oh, you have to move your office. And I'm like, move my office for what? Oh, well, they're in this complex too, and so for the safety of the staffers, we have to move your office. And I'm like, do y'all know that this woman was going home every other week at 3 o'clock? Because I knew that she was a mother of 3, and I felt like she should be home when her kids get home. She had her kids every other week. She was trading her kids, you know, with the father. Mm-hmm. And so on the weeks that she would have her kids, I would make sure that she would be off by 3 o'clock because there's nothing that we can't handle in the office. So I mean, there was a lot of, I don't know, man. It is just crazy. The piece that is definitely being not printed in the papers is that we had a conversation. Me and the LA had a conversation the week prior about our road coming to an end soon. I felt like she was kind of slacking, and then 10 days later, I had these allegations in my lap.
Which happens a lot. It happens.
So
what's next, man? I mean,
yeah, in regards to the isolation, to answer that question. So now they're like, again, that's a part of the narrative, right? So I mean, they know that that's not true, but like we got to act like it. We got to make these moves like this is like he's this predator, and so now here comes the isolation game. They're trying to put pressure on leadership to like make me resign, and they're trying to put pressure on leadership to like take me off these committees, and like everything is about, oh, it's been this many days and leadership still hasn't done anything. And it's like, yo, man, it's been that many days and y'all still ain't said nothing about this pedophile on y'all team. It's been this many days and y'all still ain't said nothing about this guy going up to DC and being involved in the riots. It's a misdirection play the entire time because they knew this guy was coming into the legislature. And so again, it's an isolation game at this point. And so in my opinion, the party knew where I was at with this whole deal. They knew that the process was kind of unethical. And in my opinion, I think large portion of the party knows I didn't do this. And they know the person that is in question for reporting this is not always that credible. But public pressures and the way that this looks in the public and the way the optics of this aren't good. They just aren't good. And the party had to be like, look, man, like we want to be with you, but like this is a distraction. Instead of us talking about like what we need to be talking about, legislating and like the things our agenda for this year, people keep asking us about you and what you're doing and why we haven't done. And so I think ultimately it was easier for the party to answer why I wasn't there than why I was. If that makes sense.
How do you feel? And I was sorry I had to step away, man. My wife ain't feeling too hot. But what like how do you feel to your just about your colleagues now? I mean, especially your Democratic colleagues. I know how I would feel.
How I feel professionally and how I feel personally are two different feelings.
Yeah, I know.
You know what I mean? I understand what they're doing professionally because this doesn't look good. And like I've stayed silent because I feel like there are things that would come to light in this regard that would show in my favor. But that really hasn't even really happened in the timeline in which I would like to have happened. So as far as how I feel about my colleagues, I mean, I understand some of my colleagues I'm disappointed in, you know, if I'm just honest. And then some people have, I mean, and there are other colleagues who have taken this, especially a lot of the incoming freshmen, the progressives, and they tried to make this a part of like their new platform. They're gonna get points off this.
Yeah.
They're gonna speak about this. And it's like, you have zero information about this, first of all.
You should go punch one of them in the
throat.
And
you don't know me. I mean, as I had to say, I was just like,
I think it's gonna help us claim it all, Chris. Don't punch anybody, man.
One of them in the throat, man. That's the
all right, I'm gonna step in for a second here, Chris. Again, I stated our track record together at the beginning of the show, which is well over 35 years. Don't tell him to go do anything like that, please.
Thank you, Matt. Appreciate you, bro.
If you're doing stuff like that, you are my type of guy. If you punching people in the throat, I like you.
No,
but
we're not.
No, Representative Price, do not listen to that advice. He is former, okay, stat red, not current.
Exactly.
Former.
So let me ask you,
Chris, you're getting that type of advice like you were in the house like during like the Andrew Jackson.
Yeah, like the dueling days. Like you're just like.
No.
Didn't do a commandment.
Handle this with long rifles.
I'm gonna tell you, no, like they were fighting though. Like
count you to a duel.
I remember Jeff Rorter and Tim. I can't think of his name. Tim. He was the majority floor leader, but they both, man, they got into it over something that we were debating about, man, in the back, like literally like fighting. And you know, I mean, you know how it is.
I support anybody who beats or fights Jeff Rorter. I support anybody who does that.
Yeah, but you know how it is. Some people pull your card and you gotta, you know, sometimes you revert back to where you come from. And you know, I have had a few instances where, I mean, I think Marco was around for a few of them. And I mean, it's just like that. But we ain't talking about it.
It's a high pressure job, man. It's a high pressure job. But you know, I figured out a way to navigate everything without having to take it there. And I think that one approach that I've had that has helped me in the long run is that I lead with respect.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and like I respect myself and everything around me. So I think that gets me a long way as well. Not really. I don't disrespect people, so people don't feel comfortable disrespecting me because I lead with so much respect.
Exactly.
Even when I know you're the character of the group, I still
42.
try to find the middle ground and work from there. Yeah.
So will there be any impact on how you actually are able to govern, to legislate in doing this process at the moment?
I mean, you know what? I was explaining this to somebody else. I was like, honestly, if it was a Democratic ran house, taking me off all these committees would actually hurt. But in the grand scheme of things, I mean, I can still attend these committees and still get all the information, and I will, and be able to pivot off of that and still be able to offer my ideas, still be able to work with my relationships, still be able to get things done.
Let me ask you,
being on a committee is not how you get things done.
Did they cut your mic off, or you can still
no. I still be caught on the floor and all of that.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like, so yeah, you know what I mean? They can't, take my voice. They can't take my relationships. They can't take my, categorical expertise on whatever I'm speaking on. you know, and I still have great relationships on the Senate side where I can go down there and get stuff done.
Right.
You know what I mean? And again, it helps that I'm not so egotistical that I got to have my name on it and I got to let people know that I did it. I just want to see it get done, and then I can go have a cigar and enjoy my day because, like, I know that I just did something great for the people of Missouri.
Right.
So at this point, you know, I mean, I think that a lot of people see what's in the headlines and people see what, you know, they just get, people believe what they read, believe what they see, and that's it. You know, I feel like you've done a fantastic job of explaining what your side of the things are here, pulling back the curtain. I feel more educated about where things are at and what process really means on the other side of this. But, you know, at the end of the day, I think that what's most important is how you're able to serve the people that you're elected to represent at the end of the day and things like that. So, I mean, do you feel like in any way, shape, or form that this is going to hinder your ability to be able to do that and to take those voices forward? And if not, you know, what are the things that you are still dedicated to making sure it still gets represented for the people of your district?
No, I don't think this affects my ability to bring resources home. You know, I'm still doing the COVID testing over there at the Urban League and still do the food drives. You know, I'm still very much rooted in my community.
Right.
Getting things done in the Capitol has nothing to do with what committees I'm assigned to. Getting things done in the Capitol has nothing to do with not being in the caucus. The caucus, I mean, the caucus situation was sad. They didn't really want it to go this route, but it went this route. So be it. But if I'm honest, the caucus has also been doing their best to keep me informed on things. I mean, look, I'll just say it. I'm an asset to the Democratic Party. And so they still come to me with a lot of ideas. Hey, what do you think about that? What do you think about this? It's really been business as usual for me in the Capitol in regards to just doing the work. Mm-hmm. And you know, that's what I'm known for in the Capitol. I came up there very serious, and I really got to work and really started making it happen up there. That is not going to slow down. It hasn't slowed down last year during this entire investigation, and I don't believe that it's going to slow down this year. I think that I carry myself in a way in that building that people know that my opinion is insightful and also oftentimes one of the masses. These are ideas of the people that are really on the ground back home, and that's an important voice to have at the table. And people on both sides of the aisle still need to hear that voice, and then they know that I'm speaking from a place of the general public.
Mute, DeMarco.
Yeah. So no, I think you definitely could still govern. You know, I mean, still legislate. I think you definitely could. What would you say, man, to people who say, man, he just need to go ahead and step down or something, like, you know, and what does that even mean, right? Because then who does it? Is it a point in special election? What happens? Like, well, how would you respond to people who say, man, he just needs to step down?
Look, if this is a situation where I had done any portion of these allegations, I think that we would be having a different conversation. I think that I would be in a place where, like, look, man, maybe I hadn't really held this with the type of decorum in which I should have. And I also feel like a resignation is a disservice to my people. Like, I stepped down and now they don't have any representation for the next 2 years. And then the last piece of that is that, like, I felt like a resignation of any kind was an admission of guilt. And like, no. And I think that that's what they wanted, so they can then insinuate. See all this insinuation that's happened with this case? Like, they could insinuate that I did it. And it's just like, yo, this is not how it works, bro. This isn't voter fraud. You can't just say something happened, not offer any proof of it, and just keep repeating it. So now it's true. And, you know, like I said, because Chris was about to say legally, and it's just like, man, I wish this was legally, because you can't do hearsay legally. Right. And unfortunately, every portion of my situation has been hearsay. And that's terrifying, to be honest. They've really set a heck of a precedent within the Capitol right now, not only with members, but also with staff. where people gonna feel like my ethics complaint didn't go to the top, it's a problem. Y'all did it with him, and y'all ain't have nothing with him. It was just a complaint, right? Okay, well then what about me? And I think that is going to be the tone of the next 2 sessions.
Yeah, no,
especially with them feeling brazen enough to not really have all the information and still go forward with this pen in this letter that they just put in the Riverfront Times, which, in my opinion, was the tipping point where the party felt like they had to step away.
They never handled situations like this, like how they handle it now. When I was a rep, because it would have been a lot of people and a lot of trouble. So, man, I just want to tell you, man, keep your head up, man. You know, I mean, we are definitely here for you, and you know, if you need anything, let us know, man. We'll have you back on as many times as we can to, you know, to let you share your truth, man. So.
Right on. I mean, we're just away from this, because I mean, at this point, man, I don't even want to honor this situation with too much more conversation. I'm gonna move forward, you know, with my career and continue to help my people and continue to serve the shit out of my district.
So I want to ask one more question, man. And it's not just about this situation, because I'm starting to see. I'm answering all questions today. Yeah, for sure. So you know, so when I think of some of the reps from specifically, like, I don't know that much about the Kansas City reps. I don't know about the other black reps. You know, I just don't know. I'm, you know, trying to learn. But when I think about how you specifically, like, legislator of the year, and now you're in a situation. We had Bruce Franks. Then he had a particular situation, particular. And then I also see how even today they're trying to create bills to where if you are somebody that's I forgot the exact term, the language, but if you are involved in politics in some shape, form, or fashion, and you are involved in an unlawful assembly, which police can then just turn around and say, if you got her protesting and turn around quickly and say, oh, no, it's unlawful, that's a direct, to me, an attack towards Rasheen Aldridge and other representatives.
I mean, that's an attack to democracy as a whole, bro. Like, if we can't go out here and protest because of my job, and my job is literally the definition of protest, fuck you.
Yes, exactly.
Like that.
So that's what I want to know, man. Like, what should us, the constituents of St. Louis City, St. Louis County, be doing to not just support our representatives, but protect our representatives and stand up for our representatives, so they won't just keep coming at y'all and whoever we send to Jeff City and then get jumped? What can we do?
You know, it's just important to go vote every 2 years. It's important to hold people accountable. It's important to reach out and call your rep and say, hey, what is going on? What is happening? I'm seeing these headlines. I'm seeing what's like, can you give me some inside baseball right now? And again, you get to pull the curtain back a little bit. And I mean, if you're going to be honest, then you should feel comfortable pulling that curtain back. And you should feel comfortable telling your constituents, hey, this is the situation. This is how it affects us negatively. This is how it affects us positively. Or this is how it doesn't affect us at all. And that's important, bro. It's important to just be very transparent with your people. But how can we support our own? And I'm going to sound like a politician right now. Funding is how you can support your people. A lot of my funding, you can look at my MEC report. Like, there is no more lobbyist dinners. So for the most part, like, you know, I mean, I take meetings and I'm like, hey man, it's on me. We're having lunch or we having dinner and it's on me. And then I take the other bulk of my money and I put it right back in the neighborhood when I'm doing these COVID tests or I'm doing these food drives or I'm doing something. You know, last year, I felt like I was knocking a lot of doors and there was a lot of people that were like, my next door neighbor, well, who is that? And I was like, how do y'all not know each other? Y'all 3 doors down from each other.
Yeah.
So the hottest day of the summer last year, I had 2 ice cream trucks. I paid both of these ice cream truck guys to just sit out there for an hour and a half. And I paid them for their time to be out there and just pass out free ice cream and have folks come out, get free ice cream and talk to their neighbors. But I can't do events like that. I can't do things like that if I'm not, you know what I mean? And I don't get lobbyist funding because I don't vote that way. You know what I mean? I don't get NRA funded because I don't vote that way. So the people that are being funded by these huge lobbyist corporations, they have the kind of money, and they don't do that kind of thing for their constituency. But like that, those are the kind of things that I like to say, hey man, I got 10 grand in the bank. I'm about to take 5 of this and do something in Dogtown, and then do something right there at the heart of Del Mar and Skinker. And like, it's gonna be great. And so that helps me bring awareness to certain issues that are happening around the district, and to bring resources to the district to say, hey, did you know that we had this thing in the district? Yeah, it's right up the street. You can go do this. But you know, all that costs money, and people don't always come down and just donate. They don't always.
It's also a thing where people have to stand up and use their voice and use their platforms to help those things move along too. And as a person who is one of your constituents, who lives in your district here, you know, to the point that Chris made, definitely let me know what we can do, you know, with what we've got there. Because I think that the point that you just made is the difference between a public servant and a public representative. A public representative can take a lot of money and sit back and just make themselves present when it's time to run and when it's time to be in the places that help you win elections. A public servant's going to be there all the time, even when it's not time for fame, or time for cameras and things like that. That's a real public representative, and I'm sorry, a public servant in my mind. So, you know, again, and I'll say it, you know, as a constituent, also as a, you know, lifelong friend of mine, let me know what we can do here and do that. And I want to thank you for taking the time to not only share your story in the name of current events here, but also share what needed to be known about what's going on in the area, what's going on in the state, and what's happening in the state of politics around Black officials. So, you know, on behalf of the show, on behalf of everything we've got here, on behalf of the Straight Out Low Cash Network, you know, thank you for taking the time to join us tonight.
Yeah.
Straight out of Low Cash. I love it.
You know.
Nah, man, I think that you guys are three very, very dynamic brothers. And I know each of you in different ways. Chris, I probably know you the least, but like, man, your name is awesome in the neighborhood. And I just think that it's super cool that three young brothers have gotten together, and everybody like-minded, but everybody got their own trips. You know what I mean? So this feels very organic. And it's so much knowledge between the three of y'all. It's crazy. And like, I just want to say that, like, I respect y'all as minds, each and every one of you, in different avenues. And you know, Matt, I don't give you your flowers enough, bro. You know, my background is in writing, and like, your writing game is just, I'm almost jealous of it, bro. You really knock it out the park.
Appreciate it,
Chris, like, your legacy in public service has really picked up where your grandmother left off. You really for real left a real big dent in the city. When people bring up Chris Carter Jr., it's always with good news. So I appreciate the three of you brothers. DeMarco, every time I see you out, you're always in the right spot. You're always on the right side of things. And I also always appreciate that about you guys. So if I could just say that about y'all, this is great. Like, I couldn't think of a better three people to come in. And then I came in, and I'm the head and the torso, and now we've Ultron.
Hey, powers unite, how it is, man. But hey, we're gonna bring it home, man. So on behalf of DeMarco, on behalf of Chris, on behalf of Chip, all right, we can say I'm not doing the government name on the way out, but hey, we appreciate y'all joining the program.
Thank you, man. And y'all heard him, man. Call y'all reps.
Yes.
Call your local representatives. Call your senators.
I mean, look, I was having this conversation real quick. Let me just throw this little part in there. Absolutely. We got to get off the executive branch. Get off the executive branch. Stop tripping off the executive branch. They don't do anything but sign off on what the legislative branch is doing. Stop voting every 4 years. The real vote is every 2, because those are the people that are actually making the laws.
Right.
Your state rep and your senator. That's the legislative branch, guys.
Yeah.
Get off the executive branch. Like,
can you tell us where to donate, where to send you some money at?
Man, right now I don't even know where to send me no money yet. Act Blue. If you just Google Act Blue and type in Wiley Price, it'll bring up my deal. But right now I'm revamping all of that because I'm about to go on a whole new run right now.
But look, hey, when you come back, when they give you your committees back, Hey, you need to make some demands. Give you the top ones. You need
Oh
to
man, well, I will say that the party truly believes in me. They truly believe in my ability. I mean, honestly, I can say this publicly. I was going to run for some leadership this year, and I was going to be put in leadership this year. But again, I knew that they were playing some games with this ethics deal, and I didn't want to put myself in a leadership position and then drag the party down with it. But this was just getting weird in a way last year where I was just like, I don't even know why I'm still in ethics. Why am I still there? And nobody has talked to me in 9 months.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Like that was another piece, is that they had this January 27th, and then they called me December 15th, like, hey, you got 24 hours to resign. And I was like, well, what happened between now and September when I was in front of ethics? What do you mean?
Yeah.
The other part is that, like, they saying that I perjured but won't give me my transcripts so I can see where I perjured. Like, it's a bunch of crazy. But anyway, that's neither here nor there at this point. The point that I'm making is we have to vote for our local legislators. It's the legislative branch that's important, not the executive branch. The executive branch definitely does have its importance, no doubt. But we have to know who is making the laws. Stop sending anybody up there just because they're a lawyer.
Hey,
they might not think like you.
Can I make a point on top of that? It's important to vote for our legislative branch. It's also important to support them after the vote. Don't show up. Don't show up every 700 or so days. Support in between, and then you know what you're showing up for, and you've actually played a hand in showing up for it. So those things are important. That matters. Always being in tune. Last thing I want to say is to you, brother, is that tough times don't last, but tough people do. So I don't got any questions about what that looks like for you on your side. So again, man, the door is always open for you here. Join us.
One more thing.
Go ahead.
Can I ask you one more thing? And this is off the fly. I just want to ask.
Go for it. That's what we all here for.
So real. Because you keep it so real. Who you supporting for mayor and why?
All right, man, y'all be cool. I'm out.
That's a conversation. That's a conversation for another day.
Next show. Next show, we'll go into that. Next show.
That's a conversation that's coming up. It's going to be pretty frequent here. We got a lot of things.
It'll be whoever support him. Damn the joke.
It's gonna be as messy as that question right there.
Man,
like,
hey, look, for real.
It's gonna be whoever support him at the moment. Like, who actually coming to him, man? Like, hey, man, they on some bullshit. We're gonna take care of it. Like, we ain't gonna let you drown like that, man. Like, so
I will say on record, I won't say who I'm supporting, but I'll say what I think is important.
Hold on. I think we need to cut the camera. Cut this so we can hear this.
No. We'll finish the show. We'll finish the show and then we'll have an after party.
Yeah.
Right.
That's what Chris. This is Chris' favorite part is the after show. After the camera.
There's a lot of issues coming up where we need proper representation at the head, and I hope that we get that. I'll say that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But
well, again.
But hold on. Hey, Chris, hold on. It's approval vote, man. You can approve as many as you want. We're gonna let you just get off that easy, man. Who you approving? Who you approve of doing the job?
But with that city needs so much.
How many people are running? 4?
Yeah.
They are qualified. It's approval voting. I get 4. What do you want, DeMarco?
I said, who do you approve of?
That's how approval works. That's how approval works. All right.
Hey, yeah, you can do that. You can vote for all 4.
That's called I don't disapprove voting. We'll see about the.
That's different.
We'll see about the approval. But hey, we're gonna take it home, y'all. Hey, again, everybody, check out all our program. We got a lot of things coming up this week. Definitely be locked in next week for politics as usual. I think we're gonna have a pretty good conversation about politics and the ethics of where we're at with COVID-19, how that's impacting Missouri, and where things are going forward with that. But on behalf of everybody here, everybody at the network, we appreciate y'all checking it out. Again, many thanks again to Representative Price for joining us and speaking with us tonight. And we're just gonna say, hey, peace till next time.
All right, now who you with?